Hello, and thank you for joining TechExcel today. My name is Renee Alanis, Senior Marketing Manager here at TechExcel. We are proud to host our 2012 webcast series. We hold informative webinars on various topics each month throughout the year. Please visit our website at techexcel.com for a current list of webinars, including the next webinar, which is the DevSuite 9.0 features in full detail. She'll take an in-depth look at all the new features that you will see here today. Now, regarding today's webinar, I do encourage all of you to use the question function located in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Just type in your question, and we will answer them at the end of today's discussion. I'd like to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Tieren Zhou, CEO, founder, and Chief Software Architect of TechExcel. Thank you, Tieren, and welcome.
Thank you. Okay, we are releasing DevSuite 9.0. 9.0 is a very significant release of TechExcel's flagship product, DevSuite, for application lifecycle management. It is designed to be an enterprise solution to help our customers to accomplish better quality, better scalability, and increase their development productivity. DevSuite consists of three core products: DevSpec for requirement management, DevTrack for implementation defect tracking, and DevTest for quality management. DevPlan is a Microsoft project-like Gantt chart planning tool as an add-on tool to enhance the ability for resource planning with a Gantt chart graphic planning tool. DevPPM or Portfolio is a portfolio management tool fully integrated with DevSuite products. KnowledgeWise provides centralized knowledge management. DevSuite 9.0 introduces two very exciting features and also enhance TechExcel's way of doing application lifecycle management. The two very significant features are multi-sites and My DevSuite for iPad. With DevSuite multi-sites, now you can accomplish the unlimited scalability by installing multiple database servers for your remote teams. If you have teams in different countries, your performance can be limited by the bandwidth between two countries. By having a database server to be installed in a different country, in this case UK side, China side, now your team working from China or from UK can access the local database and can access the local document servers. DevSuite multi-site allow you to have the local performance for accessing both the data as well as accessing the database data as well as the documents. When you have 1,000 team members, when you need to create big reports, sometimes by doing intensive DB access operations such as searching keywords against all the memo fields for millions of records for thousands of team member size, your performance will be slowed down no matter how powerful your computer is. With DevSuite multi-sites, you can achieve scalability by adding more database servers, even for a single site. My DevSuite is a platform-independent applications running on iPad or Android tablets, the Google's Android OS, or actually on your desktop computers. By having a very pleasing software and with a very simplified user interface, Now you can see all of your tasks, whether it's a dev track task or your requirements or knowledge, by looking at a tree structure like this and see view all the tasks and click on the task icon to see the task details. When you need to modify the task, you can actually click on the task. It will call a browser inside this iPad application or Android applications and allowing you to make changes. Today, my topic will be mainly on how DevSuite is designed for DevSuite 9.0. And we'll highlight and emphasize the designing philosophy, because I am the chief architect of TechExcel. I drive the company's direction. But our product managers will be talking about what's new, and also we'll be talking about multi-site. In the next 2 seminars, they will be covering a lot more details for the new features, as well as the multi-sites and my DevSuite. DevSuite for Agile development and for non-Agile development and for defect tracking, quality management are implemented, designed with the same model. The conceptual model of DevSuite is based on any real-world development project, whether it's Agile, traditional, or defect tracking, can be represented as a set of requirements with requirement space, with development space, tracking the implementations, and testing space of managing your quality. In the Agile case, requirements are represented with epic, document, and specs. Epic and document is a special type of epic. Epic represents a rough idea of what you want to do and often requires to be detailed, broken down into a set of specifications. Specs are the smaller and more quantified and normalized requirement items that need to be assigned to a development space, whether in the Agile case, you can assign them into a development sprint or into a release backlog. As you perform the development, you can also analyze for each sprint what are the requirements have been finished. Therefore, based on the linkage of testing case templates, you can calculate what are the total testing you need to perform for the requirements that have been just finished based on your development sprints. Therefore, you can do testing just for a development sprint, or you can do regression testing for multiple sprints and even multiple releases. The specs and the stories and the tasks in DevSuite is represented in a little bit different ways as the typical Agile tools. In DevSuite, requirements once quantified as specifications, as spec items, they are used to assign to development sprint to create stories. Stories are the implementation copy of a requirement. In this case, spec 1 might need to be implemented as a story for sprint 1 for the iPhone platform of a feature, but it needs to be implemented for Windows platform as well. A story copy 2, 1-2, represents another implementation effort for the same requirement spec 1. And similarly, a story copy 3 might be needed to implement the same requirement spec 1 for the next sprint, sprint 2. And requirement specs could be also assigned to release backlog. By assigning the requirement into release backlog, Now stories as well as defects could be committed to a release backlog within a development space, which represent a major version release of your product. And you can prioritize them. You can also estimate them before they get assigned to a development sprint. DevSuite for traditional development use a very similar model where requirements are also represented as epic, document, specs, and they get assigned to the development space. So a development space representing a version 9.0 release might be broken down into multiple milestones, and requirements are assigned to the milestone, and you do the implementation. As you do the implementation, testing can be integrated with your development. And the testing result as defect could be assigned back to a milestone or could be assigned to a product defect backlog, awaiting for the future assignment by your development teams. DevSuite allows you to do quality management, and with a DevTest as the core of the products, where test case templates are created. And such test case templates often are linked with requirement. And as you plan a test release and test cycles and execute the testings, your defect could be found, and such defect could be assigned to a development space or could be assigned to the product defect backlog. DevSuite introduced a concept of project-based, where project-based represents the storage of all the customizations. You can define the user interface, define the workflow, define the team member and their privileges. And within each project base, you can create development space, requirement space, or quality space to manage, track the real-world projects. In other words, project base is designed for you customize all the settings, but project base serves a placeholder for you to hold the requirement space or development space or quality space to manage the real-world projects. It is exciting to notice that this application lifecycle management market has been evolved so much. It used to be it's all about workflow management. As long as you can manage the workflow really well, you have a good tools. Nowadays, things have been changed. Because of the Agile methods, workflow is no longer enough. But workflow is still very important. DevSuite takes approach of the real-world projects need to be managed with Agile methods or sometimes non-Agile methods, often hybrided. You need to have a hybrid approach to manage the real-world project effectively. DevSuite further enhance its workflow functions so that at a higher level, you can design requirements to be quantified as specs, and they get assigned to the development sprint or the development milestone, and they get integrated with quality management. However, workflow allows you to protect and assure the quality of your executions. So therefore, you can define the requirement workflow to be more complicated for traditional development or more simplified for Agile development, as well as you can define the task workflow depending on your development methods. I think now I'm going to use the real product to demo some of the high-level concepts. Okay, So I have logged on as Terry Johnson into DevSuite. And I'm going to maximize the window size. So as you can see, once you log on, DevSuite gives you one single browser view to let you manage your requirements, your implementation tracking, your test management, your knowledge, even timesheet, if you enable the features. And you can do planning with the Gantt chart tool as well. So we're going to talk as if I was a product owner, Terry Johnson. So as a product owner for an Agile project, I log on, I might be entering the default view of requirement view or the tracking view, depending on your privilege and depending on the last time which view you have just entered when you exit previously. So in this case, we are looking at the requirement view. By clicking on the filter, you can decide not to apply the requirement space filter to see all the requirements based on your privilege. Or by applying a filter, I'm only looking at 2 requirements or 3 requirement space in this case. So for the Content Sharing Manager version 2, now I can look at the requirements. This green icon indicates it is an epic. This W indicates it is an epic, but it is an epic document. The requirement itself is the Word document. The Word document contains, in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 child specs. So if you actually open the Word document, now you will see this Word sample document is formatted based on the outline level format. We have mapped whatever the format in the Word, which is outline level 5, represent a new requirement title. And whatever the requirement description outlined with the Word format of level 6 represent the description of the requirement. Therefore, by defining the mapping rule, if you click on the DevSpec Word add-in, click on this populate. If you click on populate, now you can define the Word format with the requirement title and the requirement descriptions. For example, whatever the level 5 format is connected with title, whatever the level 6 is connected with description. So by doing that, now you can populate requirement, and you can keep using the Word document and rely on the DevSpec Word add-in. You can auto-populate child specs. You can actually modify the specs inside DevSuite and perform the two-way sync to sync back the changes back to the Word document. Or you can actually modify the Word document and re-input your changes. And that includes the fonts as well as the description and the pictures. So go back to the DevSuite. Now you notice there is a child spec. The format, you can tell, it retains the format of the Word. It inputs the pictures as well. So once you define the requirement, now you're ready to assign the requirement into a development space. So I'm going to use the tracking view to present how you're going to manage a development space. A development space also uses a filter now. You can see all the development space, or you can see only the development space currently you are interested. In this case, I'm only looking at the Content Sharing Manager version 2 development space. It represents an agile process with multiple teams. So I have Team B and I have Team A. And in this case, I have a production release with 2 sprints. If I look at the sprint, I can look at the sprint with the workload board view, or I can look at the sprint with a task list view. With the task list view, you can see all the tasks as well as the stories. And if you look at the storyboard view or the workload board view, now you can see each person's workload and each person for the 2 weeks how many hours they are working. By going to the sprint planning view, now you can plan the sprint. As you plan the sprint, you have requirement. In this case, you have a linked requirement space of Content Sharing Manager version 2, which contains all the requirements. And you can drag and drop a requirement spec into a person, even into a specific date to assign the work to a team member. You can estimate the effort, and you can also not only create a story, but can create the child tasks as well. You can predefine the implementation module, so any story once assigned, you want to create a development task for iPhone as well as QA test. By default, they should be both created, or depend on the features, you might want the developer to create other tasks. As you commit the assignment, now the tasks get assigned along with the stories, and also the workload gets increased furthermore. In other words, in DevSuite, a development space, in this case, Content Sharing Manager, allow your developer to work on their development task and allow your product owner to work on the requirement from the development space or from a requirement view. As you do the sprint planning, you can plan them by assigning the requirement as stories to a specific development sprint or milestone for non-agile case, or you can assign them into a release backlog. So the release backlog represents, if you go back to the sprint planning view, now you can assign requirement to a release backlog by creating implementation stories as well as tasks. Now you can prioritize and reprioritize, and by moving them around, so you have a prioritized and estimated backlog. Therefore, from here you can move your prioritized backlog, release backlog, into a development sprint. DevTrack, the task view, is designed for you to look at all the tasks for a development sprint and track the details of workflow. So you can perform time spent, time remaining, and you can enter the work descriptions, modify properties. As you do so, you can generate a real-time burn-down report. So a burn down report in this case represents your total team's effort of how they estimate the time spent and the time remaining, and how they are executing the current sprint from the initial date and towards your finish date. I think I'm going to quickly demo a bit of DevTest. DevTest is fully integrated with DevSuite. It is a very important aspect of DevSuite. Actually, from tracking, I want to talk one more point. DevSuite is designed with one very important approach. We believe requirement should be driving the implementation as well as driving and linking with your quality. As you define the requirement, now requirement gets assigned to a development space. A story itself can be linked with test case template. In other words, as a developer, as you work on the development task, you can easily look at the parent requirement 90 and see the requirement details. You can see even the related test case templates. And as you work on the functions, you can also create test case templates as well. Meaning, you can create a new test case template as part of your development effort. By creating a new test case template, now you as a developer, you are helping the QA testing effort, because you know as you implement a feature this way on the iPhone, what kind of testing should be covered. In other words, DevSuite takes the approach of while you are working on the requirement functions, you should also work on the quality. And the DevTest is actually designed with this kind of a philosophy. First of all, DevTest uses a test case template view to let you define this is test case template view, this is the report view. As you define the test case template, you can link the test case template with requirement. And DevTest further provides a planning view for you to plan a test release and a test cycle. What's cool is as you create a test cycle, you can specify this test cycle is for which development space and is for which development milestone or which development sprint. Therefore, by analyzing what are the requirements each development sprint or development space have connected or related, have touched for your requirements, it can conclude what are the total QA testing templates should be covered to create a test plan and test cycle. As you execute the test cycle, defect could be found and could be assigned to a development space. So this is a brief product presentation of DevSuite. And I want to quickly point out DevSuite lets you do Gantt-like planning and also pinpoint to the future directions. In this case, you can filter a development space. You can look at the development sprint And let's look at the content manager version 2. So look at the production release for the Team V. I have 2 sprints. I can plan the sprint, plan the release. I can also decide to show all the open tasks or even open and closed tasks. This way I see within the sprint 2 all the tasks I can display them, the task as well. And as you can see, these are the tasks. You can even, by showing the task group by owner, now you really have a Gantt chart-like tools of showing you each team member's workload, as well as their starting date and ending date of the task. So this is their plan as a graphical Gantt chart tool. Obviously, if you think about a development space of Content Sharing Manager version 2.0, if I do AutoFit, it might have QA testing space. So the future direction would be allow this same Gantt chart tool to show you the resource, the commitment, how busy people are in terms of implementation tracking, as well as your QA testing team members' workload and their execution. In other words, the test release and the test cycle plan could be displayed as a Gantt chart view inside and connected with your development space. Further, we can enable the portfolio tool to show you the reporting related to all projects. So to conclude, DevSuite provides an integrated ALM solutions with an optional module of portfolio management. TechExcel provides DevSuite as a one platform to let you take a total approach for quality integrated Agile, non-Agile process. Multi-sites give you the best possible performance and scalability. My DevSuite, hopefully when we give the next webinar on what's new, we will impress you to show you how cool an iPad and Android tablet-based little application can make using DevSuite to have more fun. And by the way, the same My DevSuite actually can be running on a desktop, any desktop OS actually as well. So this is my presentation, and I think I will now open for questions.
Thank you very much, Tieren. As a reminder, I want to encourage everyone to use the question function located at the lower right-hand of the corner of your screen. Now I'd like to bring on Jason Hammond. He's our Director of Product Management. And Jason, he's going through some of the questions that some of you have already submitted.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, so Tieren, we have a few questions already that wanted to have you answer. First off, we have a question about My DevSuite, and specifically, the participant wants to know if My DevSuite will be available in the Apple Store.
Yes, My DevSuite will be available in the Apple Store, and My DevSuite will be initially available as a beta by the next webinar, which is April 25th, I believe. And the production release will be more like towards end of May. It will be available from the Apple Store for iPad, and for the Android tablet, I don't know if Google has a Google Market Store or something, somehow will make it easy to download for the Android tablets devices as well.
Okay, great. A question about multi-site. Are there any special hardware requirements for multi-site?
That's a good question. In general, if you do not have distributed teams, then you do not need to use a multi-site. However, if you have big teams, you also need to you might want to consider multi-site for unlimited, for much better performance and scalability, as somebody do a huge report can easily hurt your other users' experience, as well as somebody do intensive keyword searching. Actually, it can slow down the database server. In terms of hardware, because of multi-site, the hardware requirement become much less demanding. Obviously, I would say more memory, based on our experience, is a better investment. You do not really need to have a very powerful database server, but as you increase the memories, it will make the labor-intensive operation to be much faster. And the labor-intensive operation often is the keyword searching, and with more memory, it will help.
Okay, great. Couple more questions for you. There's a question about the development spaces that you were showing. Can you use the development spaces for waterfall development too, or is it just for Agile?
Good questions. The development space can be used for both Agile and non-Agile. More importantly, you can actually implement instant messenger, and if I show you more spaces, so that some space might be using Agile versus other spaces like instant messenger, you might use just alpha and beta and follow the non-Agile processes. In other words, you can have Agile team and non-Agile teams, even hybrid teams, to be coexisting within one project base by creating multiple development spaces. And since a development space can link its own requirement space, in this case, a requirement space really represents the requirement for a traditional development, and requirement get assigned to milestone for managing your traditional process versus the same link requirement for an Agile team. It really represents the feature backlog of your Agile process, and rely on the defect backlog. Now you really have requirement and defect as backlog for your Agile process. To summarize, Agile, non-Agile, and hybrid dev spaces could coexist within a same project base.
Okay, great. A couple more questions before we wrap it up today. Will the multi-site solution be available for hosted clients?
Yes. Hosted client by year end, we will be 2012. We will be releasing DevSuite SaaS. Once you go multi-site for smaller shops, however, a smaller company might also need to work with outsourced teams in other countries to save costs, obviously. And to manage a multi-site system by installing on your own servers, it might be hard for you to maintain such multi-site systems. So DevSuite SaaS will provide this kind of a hosted solutions, but with the multi-site available as an option, so that the cost will be much more affordable for smaller companies, which actually relies on distributed teams.
Okay. And one more question. So for my DevSuite, when it opens up, is it going to just be the regular DevTrack list view, or is it a special interface optimized for the tablets?
It will be specialized for the tablets. It will be behave, look, feel like a iPad applications. It will behave and look and feel like Android tablet applications. It will be a lot of fun to use, and it will be not like all the tasks for your entire team. Instead, it's going to be for yourself. So the GUI is very simple. It's just your work